there's so much I can go on this one, but I mean, if you could just give a quick rundown of what is the difference between, for example, our JV model versus a private placement. I know we do both with you, but what is, in essence, the fundamental differences for those two?
So the big difference between the two, the joint venture and a private placement memorandum or PPM, is the joint venture is an agreement between an investor or a manager, an investor and a manager, for a specific purpose, say investing in, project X for X money. Contract that's
hold on one second, Patrick. It's getting low. I don't know why. Say something.
Can you hear me?
Oh, much better. Go ahead. So you were saying, so it's a difference, what?
Okay. It's a contract that governs the relationship between the two parties, and a PPM is what it is when a company wants to issue, they want to raise capital, and so they issue what's called a security. And I don't want to go into the definition right now of what a security is, because it's really complicated and no one really understands what the definition of a security is. But a PPM is when it's a company that's going to be selling securities, but they qualify for certain exemptions that's part of the Securities Act, and the SEC has created some certain exemptions for certain situations, which exempts the company from registering their security with the SEC. And when you have to register something, it becomes a huge expense with lots of attorneys and lots of time. So you don't want to have to register your security, especially if you're a small company. The PPM takes advantage of some of the exemptions that the SEC has allowed. And it allows smaller companies to raise, there's, a few $1 million for larger projects. I'll talk quickly about the three exemptions, but it's very part of Section 42 of the Securities Act. There's a 504 exemption, which allows the company to raise $1 million, and then a 505, exemption, which allows you to raise $5 million, and then a 506, which allows you to raise an unlimited amount of money. Which is what a lot of people want to take advantage of, is Rule 506 exemption. But there's certain restrictions on that, and they have to be followed very carefully. Otherwise, you defeat your exemption, and then you have to register. You'll have violated the Securities Act, and there's major consequences if you violate the Securities Act. So you definitely don't want to do that. You can get fined. You can go to jail. So it's definitely important to really follow these rules, but for us, probably the most important is Rule 506 exemption, and it's an unlimited amount of money that you can raise, but the key is you can't generally solicit to the general public about your capital raise, but you can offer to sell these securities to an unlimited amount of accredited investors, which are people who have a net worth over $1 million, or they make over $200,000 if they're single, or $300,000 if they're married, and then 35 non-accredited investors. But these accredited investors have to be sophisticated, so they have to know about investing and be familiar with the investment process. The big difference between the two is that the private placement deals with securities, the JV does not deal in securities. But the line between that is very, very slim. It's a big gray area because the SEC can look at, say you created this JV model, and the SEC looks at it and they say, well, what you're doing is, it looks a lot like you're selling a security. Even though you're saying it's a JV, a joint venture, you're using contracts, but it looks too much like a security. So what they'll do is they recharacterize it as a security, and because you didn't qualify for an exemption, you violated the Securities Act.
Then you're in deep trouble.
So, what's that?
I said, then you're in deep trouble.
You are in deep trouble. You'll be owing lots of money to the to the federal government. The reasons why people, it sounds like, oh, you know, the CPM is really scary, and why would you ever do that? The reason why you do it is because the joint venture